And welcome to another episode of Football the Pod. I'm your host, Commissioner Ben. All right, welcome to Football the Pod, Season 4, Episode 15. All right, the regular season is over. It feels like just yesterday when we drafted, and here we are already in the elimination rounds, 14 weeks in. No more weekly prizes on the line. No more bonus fab dollars that only Mike actually used. Only the ultimate glory of taking down the league trophy remains. And of course, the draft of the draft. Can't forget that, since at the very least, we've proven that earning first place in the draft of the draft guarantees you a playoff spot 2 years in a row, with myself making the playoffs this year after picking first in the draft of the draft. Well, getting first spot in the draft of the draft, picking first, choosing the first spot last year. And Aaron winning last year overall after winning the draft of the draft selection 2 years ago. We won't talk about Jason picking first 3 years ago and following it up with the last place finish the next year. I'm carrying on a bit, so let's carry on. It's time for Just the Tip with Commissioner Ben. All right, today's tip. It's playoff time. You know it. Either you're in or you're not. Nothing else matters. But for everyone other than Aaron and Scott, this week is everything. You lose in round one of the playoffs and you're locked into a 5th to 8th place finish. You lose in week 1 of the toilet bowl and you're locked into 5th or 6th pick in the draft of the draft. That means you got to do everything you can this week to win. Take a look at your opponent's rosters and see if they're planning any last minute D pickups, for example. Maybe waiting for a guy to be moved to IR before they can make a move to add a D for next week, add a quarterback. Take a look at who your opponents are. Beat them to it. Block your opponents. Also, a few guys on your roster you know you don't want to play, but maybe seem enticing and you know they're going to have terrible weeks. Maybe they're landmines and you can drop them to encourage others to pick them up and start them. And don't forget, you can't invest your fab to buy a house next year, so you may as well start spending it to guarantee you get who you want. Hell, I dropped $10 on the Jacksonville defense to make sure I'd get them this week to go up against whatever terrible quarterback the Jets decide to field. Your mindset changes in the playoffs. This is what we're playing for. It's time to lock in. And that was just the tip with Commissioner Ben. All right, it's just me again this week, left to pleasure myself and hopefully all of you as well, with some playoff round 1 previews and predictions. But before we do that, we of course have to give out our final season trophies, starting with the low score. It has been an up and down season for our league mystery man, and he ends it off with an extreme down one. Congratulations to this week's Poopy Football Award winner, Daniel. Daniel's 56 points last week was the second lowest score of the season, with no player scoring more than 15 points on his team, and a combined 1 total point from his quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who had an incredible double turnover play, throwing an interception, having his offense fumble and recover it. The ball comes back to him, and then he fumbled again. -4 points on a single play. Hilarious. Combined 1 total point from Jalen Hurts and DJ Moore. It's easy to see how this week was a complete stinker for Daniel. And, that final fake $10 was already deposited into your account, Daniel. But given that you have spent a total of $1 on Fab this year, meaning you have $109 left, I'll take a guess that your 5 total moves that you've made this year with that $1 Fab, that extra 10 might not really help you. But you know what? Who knows? I've got hope that you'll use the waiver wire effectively in these final, hopefully just 1 more week. But that really matters. Anyways, here's hoping those low scores continue in your round 1 matchup against me. Moving on, the high score of the week, finishing off the season on the highest note possible. Congratulations to our final champ of the week winner, Brandon, whose 177 points was 24 higher than anyone else this week. solidifying his first place finish and becoming the only team to win the weekly champ trophy 3 times this year. Now that is a strong way to enter the playoffs. All right. There's no matchup reviews this week. It's too late for that, but just for fun, let's take a look at who won our real and fake prize money this year, especially in the first year of our fake prize money, starting off with our weekly champs. Like I said, our only 3-time weekly champ winner was Brandon, including the week 1 victory for that extra $5. We had Scott take one down. We had Christine take one down. We had 2-time winners in Nick and Sean. And then Mike, myself, Eddie, Daniel, and Brent each won one of the weekly awards, which means none for Sarah. I'm sorry, Sarah, our only playoff team who didn't take home at least one weekly champ trophy this year. Also none for last year's winner, Aaron, along with the much maligned Cassie and Jason household. For our weekly poops, our Poopy Football Awards, well, we had one 3-time winner in Aaron. We know how quickly his season completely crashed down when Lamar Jackson also decided to stop playing football for 3 weeks in a row. We had Brent with 1 Poopy Football Award, Cassie with 2, Christine with 2, Mike with 2, Sarah with 1, Nick with 1, Sean with 1, and Daniel with 1, which means none for Brandon, myself, or Eddie. 3 of the top 4 teams. Starting a little trend here, eh? If you want to do well, you should get some high scores. If you don't want to do poorly, you should not have low scores. Fantasy's that easy. All right. As well, hey, Scott and Jason, no Poopy Football Awards for either of you guys. One of the few things that went right for your teams this year. All right, there's our quick review. It's time for the playoff matchups. As a reminder, in our toilet bowl, we have Aaron and Scott on bye, getting the advantage to fight it out for first pick in the draft of the draft, which leaves us with Brent versus Cassie and Jason versus Mike in the first round of the toilet bowl. Those rounds will be previewed after the first round, once the bye teams get back in it. And I will say, we are guaranteed to have 2 new finalists this year with both first and second place finishers from last year, Aaron and Mike, completely missing the playoffs. Also, our winner from 2 years ago, Scott, missing the playoffs too. So it's going to be a complete change for us this year. Some new teams on top, let's hope. And Brandon will look to improve on his 3rd place finish after finishing first overall in the regular season. Let's take a look at our matchups. It's time to jump in live as we go to making use of, well, whatever platform you happen to be looking at. We will see. Here's our screen share to go over our playoff matchups, starting with our first place versus, well, selected 8th place seed, Brandon against Sarah. Let's look at this matchup as we see it here. Now, I don't know if everyone has their lineups set yet, but we'll take a look at those benches. Let's take a look at this quarterback matchup first. I mean, all right. Matthew Stafford has had an unreal season. He is the MVP award favorite in real football this year. He is probably a favorite for at least comeback of the year player in terms of fantasy quarterback. An unreal season. And he is playing Detroit inside this week. So he is likely going to be airing it out. This is one of the highest ranked weeks for Matt Stafford. However, you can never discount Josh Allen, the number 1 fantasy player on the year, number 1 quarterback. This is an incredibly even quarterback matchup, but you got to give the edge to Josh Allen still. Looking at our wide receivers, the 2 we've got lined up here at least, and you know what? Puka Nacua has been the 2nd best wide receiver on the year after Jackson Smith and Jigba. However, Jamison Williams, he's looking real good now heading into the fantasy playoffs. Jordan Addison, a sketchy play, but an incredible matchup with Dallas. Let's see. He seems to be J.D. McCarthy's top target. And then the real question mark on Sarah's roster this week, her top roster player, CeeDee Lamb, got concussed last week. It was Thursday Night Football. Let's see if he can get out of the concussion protocol and play on site. That's going to have a huge factor in this week's matchup. Because otherwise, all right, You're going to get some points playing Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, but definitely the upside is capped there. Whereas Devon Achane has been one of the most consistent fantasy players all year. Got to give Brandon the edge at running back. And you know what? At tight end, I mean, if we have 44-year-old grandpa Philip Rivers throwing Tyler Warren the ball, it would have been an easy win for Brandon at tight end. But now I don't even know. This could be in these two tight ends in the same matchup. I'm going to give this a complete toss-up. In the flex spots, RJ Harvey just keeps on getting those goal line rushes. But against Green Bay, I mean, a top defense. Devin Neal, the rookie, although he came down with a little bit of a hurt Achilles, is he going to, I mean, I'm sure he'll play. Great matchup against Carolina. Maybe that limits his work a bit. And, Baltimore needs the win real bad. And maybe Zay Flowers can build off his previous game. And Mike Evans, I mean, another complete toss-up. He first game back after a broken collarbone in like 2 months. No idea who he's going to do tomorrow night or tonight whenever you're listening to this. I will give the flex spots because of this RJ Harvey workload. I will give those to Brandon. The running back goes to Brandon. The quarterback goes to Brandon. The wide receivers depends on CeeDee Lamb. If we look at the defense, both defenses are strong this week. The bench spots, I don't really see many changes happening here. Because of that, CeeDee Lamb is going to be the X factor in this matchup, but I'm going to assume that he's not going to make it through concussion protocol. If he does, this whole matchup changes, but if he doesn't, which is my prediction, then I think Brandon will win. So my pick here is Brandon. Moving on to our second matchup. Our second verse is 7th place teams, where we have the, according to the standings, 10th, but certainly not 10th in terms of points for, sneaking into the playoffs, Christine against Nick. Let's take a look at this going on. And Christine managed to actually have the successful strategy of drafting 2 quarterbacks, of holding them all year, which allowed her to play Caleb Williams through his strong middle of the year fantasy-wise, while Joe Burrow was on injured reserve. And now she gets Joe Burrow back, slinging it out against Baltimore, while Nick is forced into playing Baker Mayfield, who has been terrible the past 2 months after a real strong start to the season. The edge here clearly goes to Christine at quarterback. Let's take a look at wide receiver. And Christine has that Joe Burrow to T. Higgins stack. However, T. Higgins entered concussion protocol on Monday night as well, just like CeeDee Lamb. When you enter on Monday nights, it is generally pretty hard to get out of concussion protocol. If T. Higgins plays this game, that changes everything. But assuming that he is going to be out once again, I mean, all right. Even that, Nick's 2 wide receivers in this spot leave a little bit to be desired. But when we scroll down at our next 2 wide receivers, Luther Bird and Devontae Adams has been amazing. The first week in like 2 months last week that he didn't score a touchdown. The wide receiver edge, for that reason, has got to go to Nick. Looking at running back, still one of the picks of the draft in Javonte Williams. And the number one, perhaps, running back even in the league, Jahmyr Gibbs, who's had multiple just massive week-winning fantasy weeks. Over on Christine's side, she is going to need another massive game from Saquon Barkley. I mean, he didn't have a massive game last week. He had a good game. Now is the time to do it. Playing Vegas, one of the worst defenses in the league. And Devin Singletary was looking a little bit hotter when Tyrone Tracy looked like he was going to be out. Now it looks like Tracy's going to play, so not lining up so well for Devin Singletary anymore. At tight end, I mean, yeah, I'll give the edge here to Travis Kelce. It's hard to not pick Travis Kelce over Juwan Johnson. The Chiefs are going to be doing everything they possibly can to make the playoffs. That's going to include getting the ball to Travis Kelce. But here at the flex spot, I mean, this is where Nick's hiding Kyren Williams. Definitely would rather be playing Kyren Williams over Kyle Monangai, even if Kyren Williams has been losing touches and touchdowns to Blake Corum finally this year. Both teams have got strong defenses. Tampa Bay is going to probably pick off Kirk Cousins a couple times. And Chicago, they'll probably sack Shadur Sanders a couple times. If we look at the benches here, you know what? You might want to play Bam Knight. Bam Knight is going to be the starting running back for Arizona. Houston defense is terrible, but that could be the option. And you might also want to slot in Andre Yoshabas to get Yoshi in there if T. Higgins is out over on Christine's side. On Nick's side, there is the decision that would make wide receivers a lot stronger. If Marvin Harrison Jr. does get into that lineup, then he could get out. Well, It's going to be tough because he'd have to make the Chris Godwin swap. So maybe it'll be too late. Regardless, because T. Higgins is probably not going to get through concussion protocol, I will give this much closer than it seems in terms of Yahoo prediction matchup. I will still give this one to Nick. Let's move on to my matchup. Against Daniel, the third versus sixth place teams. And Yahoo is calling this incredibly close so far prediction, 0.25 points, a quarter of a point away from each other. And, well, let's start at the top. Even though Jalen Hurts had only 0.4 points last week, the edge has got to go to him over Justin Herbert, who has just been an incredible fantasy player to start the year, but has really fallen off the past 4 weeks, has not been able to get close to 20 points. And so, because of that, edge easily goes to Jalen Hurts in an incredible matchup against Vegas. Looking at wide receiver, well, I've got one stud in Jamar Chase. Daniel's got one stud in the Sun God. We will call those a wash. And then we've got two players who have started out the year strong and have fallen off in recent weeks, Emeka Egbuka and Chris Olave. I'm playing Emeka Egbuka in the excellent matchup against Atlanta. Let's call this one completely even. So we'll call it even at wide receiver as well. Looking at running back, Ashton Jeanty has been an absolute disappointment. He will touch the ball a whole bunch in what is sure to be a negative game script. Probably gets a bunch of catches from Kenny Pickett, who's going to be starting with Geno Smith out for Vegas. On my side, I don't have a true star, but Chase Brown and Bucky Irving are two reliable top 10 running backs, especially with Daniel playing Bucky Irving's backup, Rachaad White. Let's hope Bucky Irving really gets all of the snaps this week, much more than his about 50% snap share in his first week back from injury. I will give the running back edge to myself. However, at tight ends, we've got Brock Bowers, one of the top tight ends in the league. Definitely not number one anymore. That goes to Trey McBride, but Yahoo matchup says it all. I've got to decide still if I'm going to play Dalton Kincaid or Kyle Pitts. Either way, tight end matchup easily goes to Daniel. And then in the flex, I don't even fully know who I'm going to start yet. Definitely Jacoby Myers is in there. He's been unreal since he got traded to Jacksonville. But Wan'Dale Robinson is just racking up the targets. He's had some massive weeks. He's got to be at least as good as Jacoby Myers. DJ Moore, though, has been terrible of late. Juwan Jennings has been decent of late. Let's call this one an even matchup. And kickers and defense. I've got to give the defense edge to myself as well. But overall, with that quarterback, Jalen Hurts playing Vegas and Justin Herbert playing KC with a broken left hand and no offensive line, this one is definitely close. But I'm giving it to Daniel because obviously I can't pick myself to win either. Let's move to our last playoff matchup, the fourth in round one at least, fourth against fifth place in the regular season. These two teams, Sean finishing fifth, Eddie finishing fourth, were 1.4 apart from each other in the regular season. Incredibly close. Their Yahoo prediction is incredibly close as well. Let's start it off at the top. Both teams have strong quarterbacks who've been real hot as of late. Both of them are even in the real MVP, NFL MVP conversation. And both of them have got some pretty tough matchups. However, I think the New England matchup against Buffalo is tougher on Yahoo paper than it is in real life. Drake May should still come out slinging. The only risk is a cold, snowy day in Buffalo. As Yahoo seems to say that there is a snow today. I don't know what they mean by today, if they mean that or in terms of when the game's going to happen on Sunday. But it could be cold in Buffalo. But Dak has got to play against the strong Minnesota defense. So because of that, both players should do well. I'm giving the edge to Drake May with his rushing upside. He's been rushing all year. Quarterback edge to Eddie. At wide receiver, Sean has the number one wide receiver on the year. Easily, probably just the top pick of the draft. Third round pick, Jackson Smith and Jigba, has been absolutely unreal. He could break the NFL record for receiving yards this year. That's how good he's been. So he's definitely going to be better than Rashee Rice, who's going to get you the points, but he has shown that he has a floor last week when he only got, just less than 8 points. And George Pickens, who's been a top 10 receiver as well. That stack with Dak Prescott is scary if they go off. Eddie's got to be happy that they've got a bad matchup, but the edge at wide receiver definitely goes to Eddie. Looking at running back, another strong matchup here with Christian McCaffrey on Eddie's side, but CMC is playing Tennessee. An incredible matchup. If he doesn't score at least 2 touchdowns, it's going to be a surprise. Whereas Bijan Robinson on Atlanta's side tomorrow night against Tampa, he's going to get a lot of catches. He's going to touch the ball a lot, but he could very well have no touchdowns. And in the backup slot, we've probably got 2 equivalents. Breece Hall on the terrible Jets team and Omarion Hampton, who just came back from injury playing KC. Easy edge, in my opinion. To Eddie at tight end, well, currently with the 2 tight ends we're playing here, we've got a funny starting scenario where Sean has the tight end for Eddie's quarterback playing against Buffalo. So anything that goes to Hunter Henry is going to just be pure upside for Sean and negative for Eddie. And, well, if Eddie is really going to have to roll with Oronde Gadsden, which it looks like he is, because, well, same thing with Justin Herbert being bad of late, KC having a strong defense, tight end edge goes to Sean. In the flex spot, however, Devontae Smith, all right, he should have a strong game against Vegas, but who knows what's going to happen with Vegas throwing the ball, or Vegas, Philly not even needing to throw the ball much against Vegas. We'll see. And then the backup running back on New England, Ramondre Stevenson, backup 50-50, whatever. I would rather have Terry McLaurin, who's been great since coming back from injury, and Ted McMillan, the clear number 1 wide receiver on Carolina, with Bryce Young actually throwing the ball a little bit more in a solid matchup against New Orleans. So flex edge goes to Eddie. And on defense, both guys have got real strong defense matchups. San Francisco playing Tennessee. Tennessee and Cam Ward suck, and Cam Ward takes a ton of sacks. But the best real-life defense in the NFL is Houston, and they're playing a good matchup against Jacoby Brissett in Arizona, who's going to keep throwing the ball, which leads to interceptions and potential defensive touchdowns. Overall, this is a real tight one. It's dead even, but I'm going to give the edge and the pick here to Eddie, if for nothing else, because for some reason, Sean is deciding to hold a Tennessee defense on his bench and have Torrey Horton on his bench as well, who could be on IR or, more importantly, just dropped. What are you doing? Come on, get better roster management here. And that's it. Those are all 4 of our playoff matchups. I can stop screen sharing now and finish off the rest with our viewer-submitted inputs. And I will say, we had some very insightful takes from some of our regular listeners. So let's hear what they had to say about what will happen in the playoffs either this week. Overall, this is what they said. So, hey, we're giving the submissions to our viewers here. Starting off with last week's guest, Nick, who says, I think Christine is going to win. She has an elite team whose players are all going to get their best scores of the year this week. The Tomarese Higgins. Tomarese. Who knew? That's what T stands for. Tomarese Higgins and Joe Burrow stack is super scary against Baltimore, and Saquon is ready to bounce back against a green matchup coming off his best game since week 8. Nick is definitely the underdog team going into this matchup. All right, well, that is a good overarching view of the whole playoffs. Thanks for that submission, Nick. From Christine, or should I say no pod appearance yet this year, Christine. Christine says, Cassie wins the Poopy Football Award, Nick wins overall, and me, i.e. Christine, finishes in a respectable 4th place. However, she quickly realized that since she is playing Nick, 4th place is impossible if she loses to Nick, so she changed that to 5th. And Christine did hand out the award for most name changes in one season to Nick. Aptly awarded. From last year's runner-up, an avid listener, Mike, he says, Nick is favored by a lot, at least in his matchup versus Christine, but he's going to have a rough one. Tough matchups for key guys, lots of questions with peripheral players. I'd prefer Christine's side this week, but I'd prefer anything over my group. And I'd put my money on Sarah, too. The others are way too close to call. Eddie benching Travion Henderson while Sean has Ramondre is a power move, and Eddie's roster looks stacked for a run. And keeping it short and sweet, big pod fan Eddie says Sean, Brandon, Nick, and myself, as in me, to win the first round. Brent and Mike to win in the toilet bowl. And then, well, myself, as in Commissioner Ben or Nick, to win overall, and Mike to win the toilet bowl. Thank you for all of those viewer submitted inputs. And I will say, many people took Cassie to finish last place overall. So step it up, Cassie. And well, time for my predictions. I have to say, in fantasy, your best players win it for you. The best players in the league and the best players in fantasy, those are the ones you want in the playoffs and championship weeks. And Josh Allen is the best player in the league and for fantasy. Brandon has him as his quarterback. So Brandon is going to win it all over Nick in the finals. Mike will use all of those regular season trades to win the toilet bowl, and Cassie will finish last because she'll probably forget to set her lineup. And that's it. Week 14 and the regular season are over. It's playoff time. So strap in and follow along with your own and everyone else's playoff matchup too, because we're about to have a new league champion and some sure to be incredibly tight round one matchups before that. Until next week, thank you for listening. And good luck in week one of the playoffs. To everyone, except Daniel, of course. Though you can have your good luck back if you come on the pod. See you next week.